Hey, Cone Health team, this is Gabe Dimmick, and I have been a student with you guys for the past 8 weeks, and it's been a great experience. And as part of my in service, I wanted to create this resource and recording for you guys so that you can optimize your use of MedBridge. I was talking with Mark a little bit about kind of the utilization of it and the fact that MedBridge is probably a little bit underutilized at this point. And so I wanted to help you guys figure out how you can put it into your practice to help both you and the patients. So let's go ahead and get started. I really want to start by going through some of the benefits of MedBridge that we'll walk through. So they have a really user-friendly HEP builder, templates that you can set up and share through the rehab team to make exercise prescription a little bit easier for you guys. Um, they have patient education that you can then put into their program, so it's all in one place. There's a continuity of care aspect that's going to come into play with the access codes through MedBridge, so that if two therapists are treating the same patient, they can actually access the HEP without having to, go and talk to the other therapist or find them on their day off to figure out what their HEP was if the patient has lost their paper HEP, which we know is something that happens pretty often. There's continuing education on MedBridge that's really helpful to help you grow as a clinician, to meet your requirements, to keep learning, and to grow and to help your patients. Multiple ways of delivering the information to the patient. You can do the paper copy through MedBridge, but you can also do the browser or the MedBridge Go app, the phone app delivery system, which is a really cool view that allows some things to happen that can increase patient compliance and adherence to exercise programs. Some of those things are notifications that come onto their phone, gamification and progress tracking, things that research have seemed to show from behavior change research to show that increases compliance and motivation in patients. So let's go ahead and get started. One of the things I want to start out with is simply logging in, because I've talked to a few people who have tried to use MedBridge and said they had some issues logging in because at some point they thought they had to use some link that was sent to them and to go search through their email to find it, and that's not the case now. I'm not sure what the deal was with that, but that's not the case now. So all you'll do is on Google or whatever search engine you're using, just type in MedBridge, and it'll bring you to kind of this page I was at just a second ago, and you'll click the top right, just click sign in. And there's two ways to get in. So you can either sign in with your email address, or you can click this sign in with organization portal button, and that's what I would do if I were you. And then you're just going to type in Cone Health. So that's going to redirect you to this page. So this is the Cone Health page, and you're just going to enter your credentials like you would to get into Epic. So mine are already in here, so they're entered, and I'm just going to press sign in. So it brings you to the main page of MedBridge. So the easiest place, in my opinion, for you to navigate from is to actually go to this patient engagement tab and then go to home exercise programs. So this is going to be an easy place to navigate to other places on the site. So this is what I kind of use as my go-to homepage to help me get to other places. So before we actually build an HEP, we'll practice doing that in just a moment. What I want to do is go to settings, and I want to set my default HEP parameters. So what that's going to help us to do is it's going to help us to not have to go through on each exercise and change the sets and reps and how long we want them to hold the exercise for every single different exercise that we prescribe. Because for most of you that I've observed anyway, the parameters are, you're pretty much giving standard parameters, 3 sets of 10. Either that's, one set 3 times a day or 3 sets once a day, something like that. But whatever you prefer, you can go ahead and put into this default section. Just click update default parameters, and then that's going to go into every single exercise that you put on there. You can always change it later and tweak it for individual exercises, but it's going to save you a lot of time if you do this first. All right, so want to go ahead and get that taken care of. We'll go back to our main page that I talked about. And so you're going to come to this screen. So just to orient you, you have kind of this big, huge library of exercise with a search bar right here in the middle. So let's practice actually just going through building an exercise program for someone with, lower extremity weakness. So I'll just go ahead and type in a few. So we'll do ankle pumps. So supine ankle pumps. This is an exercise we'll add, so you can either drag it over to the right, which is where the program will populate, or you can click the add button, either way. Now you're going to notice that this has a star here, so that was just because I have previously favorited that exercise. So if I click that star, on the left side here, there's a tab that says favorite exercises. So if I click on that, you're going to see a couple of exercises pop in here. So ankle pumps, glute sets, just from me playing around previously. So if you have common exercises that you're giving, if you favorite them, then you can easily go over to this tab, and that's going to be very, very helpful in saving you time because you can just add or drag and drop from this page. Okay. So let's put in a few more. We'll do quad sets. We'll do heel slides. And we'll do hip abduction. So we've entered our exercise program, and you can see here from the parameters that they're the same parameters that I put into that default page on my settings tab. And again, that's saving me a lot of time, so I don't have to go into each of these tabs over here for each exercise and change them to what I want. Okay, so again, just to review, a couple of key things that can save you time: default parameters, and then also the favorites on the favorite exercise, because you can just go to this tab and then add from there. Okay, so that is kind of building your exercise plan. Now, just so you know what a patient will be able to see, so if you actually click on the exercise, this will pop up. You'll have a video, so I'll just play this briefly so you can see it.
Begin lying on your back with your legs straight. Slowly pump your ankles by bending and straightening them.
So you can see there's a video that goes along with a narrator giving directions, and so that for a lot of patients can be more helpful than just looking at a picture, because they don't have to read through it all. They can kind of watch the person do it, and it's an easier demonstration for most patients. There's also directions that will come with it. So on the top right here, and you can edit those. So this exercise says for the setup, begin lying on your back with your legs straight. If you wanted to change something about that, you could change that here. Okay, so you can edit things. If you don't love the exercise name, if you think another name would be better, you can edit the exercise name. Sometimes they'll have an alternate name already here from MedBridge that they have supine ankle plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. That's a little bit wordy for me, but if you want to add something else, a different exercise name that you find to be more intuitive, you can add that exercise name here. So if you just want to say ankle movement and press add, then your custom name will populate in here. You can save it and it'll change the name of it. So there's a lot of customization that you can do within MedBridge. Okay, so that's some of the great features here. One other piece of information I think is helpful to know is that for the direction piece, if you go into the actual exercise, there's an English tab up here, or a language tab, and you can change that to Spanish. So the video will still be in English, but the directions will be written in Spanish. So for our Spanish-speaking patients, that can be really helpful. Now, let's say you're looking for an exercise and you can't find it. Okay, so one of my favorite exercises to do at the gym are called lizard walks. That's what I call them anyway, but I don't know anybody else that calls them that, and so they're not really on here. So if you can't find the exercise you need, if you search for it and it's not there, you can click this button here at the bottom, and you can describe what you're looking for, And what MedBridge will do is they'll help you find it under a different name, or if it doesn't exist yet, they'll tell you if it's on their list to be filmed. So if they get enough requests for under that description of describing a certain exercise, they'll likely film it and then get it onto their site. So that's if you are looking for an exercise that you can't find. So let's say we have made our exercise program over here on the right. We can adjust any of the final parameters that we want. If we want anything to be a little bit different, we only want, 5 reps of this exercise. We can change that, there and alter it. And then what we want to do is press save. So what's going to pop up when we press save is this page. And so this is key for the continuity of care between patients or between therapists for a patient. So the way that these exercise programs are given out is through these access codes. So it's a way of protecting patient health information. And so there's no name or anything like that associated, but they do have this access code associated. So what I would tell you to do is to copy. So you can either copy all of this. So there's a copy button right here. So you can copy all of that and paste it into Epic because you're probably going to have their chart open. And so you can either paste it, either in the exercise section, or you can actually paste it in their actual note right below the impression statement. And that's usually what I've been doing with patients. But instead of copying all of that, I would probably just copy this access code. Just copy that, and then I would just paste that into the note right below the impression statement so that the next therapist can get to their program. So let me show you how to do that. If you're reviewing a chart and you see one of these access codes and you want to see their program because they're not typically your patient, what you're going to do is click this access codes button at the top, and you can click this jump to program. And I'm just going to copy this really quick because we know that's our program. So I'm going to jump to program. So if you have that access code from Epic, all you'll do is copy and paste it into there and click open program. So it's going to take us right back to here, and it's going to take us to the right side of the screen where we can see what they've been given. You can now adjust it or just see what they've been doing, either way you want to do it. If you want to update it, all you would do would be to add an exercise, save it, and it's still under the same access code, but then the first therapist could then see the update. So it's a way of collaborating, using the MedBridge service to be the intermediary, so you don't have to go track somebody down and talk to them about what you changed. And so it just can save you a lot of time because it is somewhat integrated into Epic in that way, and that you can just copy and paste the access codes. Now, lastly, for this program, if we want to give specific directions or overall notes for the patient, you can click this button called Add Program Notes. So if we want to say, make sure to keep toes pointed straight, we can add that, and then that's added into the program notes. So you can, put any number of things there that could be helpful to the patient, but that's going to be your main process for building a program if you're not using templates. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now, to actually deliver the program to the patient, your view is a little bit different than mine. So my view only has this print and document buttons because I have the student access. Yours will have print, email, text, or document. Okay, so you'll have an extra 2 buttons here. So the email and the text, what you'll do is click one of those, just put in the patient's email, put in the patient's phone number, and it'll send them their access code to their phone or to their computer. Or you can print it, and if I press print, this is going to pop up and you'll see what the patient gets. So it gives them login instructions with their access code. So it does give them kind of directions on how to use the phone app, how to use the browser. Even if you aren't with them using those things and showing them how to use those devices to get to it, the opening page of the PDF that you print out for them has those directions. Now, whether they'll actually use it or not without you showing them, that's questionable, but it does have that. It does have their access code here on their paper, and then it has their program, and mine says student copy because I'm a student. So yours obviously would not say that. So then you would just click generate PDF, print it, and give it to the patient. So the next thing that I want to show you guys are the templates. So these, I think, are what you're actually going to use the most often, and I think that they're really, really helpful in creating a program. So let's pretend we have a new patient, different patient, and we want to give them a very similar program to what we just did, but this is going to save us some time because we don't have to go through and find each exercise. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either go to this section here and click on templates, the templates tab on the right. So it says no templates found because I haven't saved any templates yet, and this is what yours will look like if you haven't saved any. So what you can click is my practice templates. So that's going to be through Cone Health. Okay, so this is one that I created earlier under Maya's account. So this is the basic lower extremity HEP for acute care. So this is kind of your basic strengthening of your lower extremity. So I'm going to click add here, and all of this is going to populate over here to the right away. And then it's got a lot of exercises on here. So maybe you don't want to give the patient, 9 exercises because there's 9 exercises on here. So maybe I want to take out straight leg raises because they can't do that. You want to take out, we'll take out seated long arc quad because they can't really do that yet. So now we have less exercises, but it's an easy way to just populate them all over to the right and then adjust from there. So I think templates are going to be a big way that you're going to use it. So we have this over here on the right now. So if I click save, it's going to come up. It's going to pop up as an access code similar to what we talked about before. Now you can also save this as your own template. So I'm going to say Gabe's lower extremity template. So now if I go to my templates, I now have one template here. So it's just going to make it easier for you to tailor MedBridge to what you want. So it might take a little bit of upfront work, not much as you can see, to get some of your templates done so that when you have a certain patient with certain impairments, you're going to kind of know, all right, that this is typically what I give, and you'll just go to your template really quickly, click add, and it's already there for you. It should take less than 2 minutes to log in, add the template, adjust it really quick, and either print it or send it to them via email or text. It should be super quick. Again, it might take a little bit longer to actually show them, how to navigate to it and those sorts of things. But for that initial piece, it should take 2 minutes or less. Because I definitely want this to be something that you guys find to be relatively intuitive and easy, or else you're not going to use it, and that's the truth. So anyway, let's go back to our main page, and I want to start talking here about the patient education section. So I am going to add just one exercise just to show you that the exercises and patient education can be merged into one. So patient education, you're going to click on this middle tab here. And so there's lots of resources on MedBridge that I think are really helpful for patients to wrap their head around what they have going on. So there's education regarding conditions. So if somebody has vertigo, and that can be kind of a really confusing thing. Like, why am I getting dizzy all the time? This doesn't make any sense. My therapist keeps telling me about these crystals that are in my ear. Um, that sounds kind of weird, right? Education can be really helpful for them, and so you can give them this resource. So MedBridge already has it, so we'll add this BPPV resource, patient education. Okay, so we have that. There's also education regarding precautions. So let's say we have a patient with abdominal precautions. We'll click add there. Now, little caveat with some of the education is, for you to give it to a patient, you should probably watch it to make sure that the video is saying what you want it to say, instead of assuming, right? So one of the things that I did to help that go a little bit easier is I uploaded a lot of the educational documents that Margie had digitally, and I uploaded them here on the MedBridge. So the way that you'll get to those is, again, you're on this patient education tab, and you'll click My Practices Education. So you can see that there's all of these, and these are Cone Health approved. I got these straight from Margie's digital copies. So if we wanted to put anterior hip precautions on here, you just click add. Again, you can use that favorite feature that we talked about earlier with the exercises. So over here on the left, you can go to your favorites. So now anterior hip precautions show up. You can go to my practice. You can see all the precautions that we put on there. And I did put not only the PT related ones, but OT and speech as well. And then you can go to my uploaded education, because there's definitely a chance that you use some education that I did not have access to. So if you want to upload your own education onto there that you like using, what you can do is go to my patient education at the top here. All right. So there's nothing uploaded yet. That's why there's 0 resources found here. So I'm going to click on my patient education and click the upload button. And then usually if it's a video, that's great. You can upload a video, but usually it's going to be a PDF. You'd enter the name up here at step 1. And then step 2, you would just choose it from your computer, update it onto here, and save it. And that's going to populate back into this section here where you type, or where you click my uploaded education. It would populate back into here. Okay, so now let's go back to the exercises. So let's try to do this kind of together. So let's add an exercise. Let's add an educational handout, and then press save. So now we have an access code, and it's going to have not only the exercise but the patient education with it. So when the patient logs in digitally, they're now going to have multiple sections, one with exercises and then one with the patient education. Okay, so it puts everything into one place, allows them to review it later, which I think is really helpful for recall and the patient actually understanding the information they're getting, because they may nod their head when we're in the room, but we know that later we come back and we ask them and they forget. And so this is going to allow them to digest and repeatedly get the information when they watch it, and see those resources. And they're going to be able to take it at their own pace versus us just talking to them nodding their head, and us leaving. We're ensuring that patient education is they have the ability to access it at all times. Okay, so I want to show you guys what the patient sees from the MedBridge Go app and from the browser if they're accessing or utilizing MedBridge in that way instead of just the paper form. So I created this PDF because these are just screenshots from the MedBridge Go app. So I'm going to go to the slideshow, and we'll go ahead and take a look through here. So the patient has this view right here. So this first page. So there's 3 tabs at the bottom. So exercise, resources, and activity. So if they click exercise, on the left, you're going to choose the exercises that they want to perform. So if there's a check mark, those are the ones that they'll perform. And then they'll click the start exercise videos. It'll take them over here to the right, and it'll just go in order. And it has a countdown with the video of the patient actually doing the exercise. So it starts with ankle pumps, and so they're doing the reps with the video, making sure that they're going together. Okay, so that'll take them all the way through their exercise program. So at the end, when they're totally finished, on the left, it'll take them to this log a session page. So they'll keep all the ones checked that they actually did and click log session. From there, it'll give them the option to tell the provider how this went. Now, being a student, it doesn't actually let me see what happens when they do this. So I'm not sure if you guys get an email or how that is provided to you, that they, the specifics of what they did. But I'm assuming that you do get some sort of notification about how their exercise plan went. Not 100% sure on that, just because I don't have access to that. I will show you in just a moment how you can tell if they've logged in and when their last patient login was, so that you can tell if they've actually been using the app or the desktop version to do their program at all. So I'll show you that in just a moment. So let's say that they log, or they tell the provider how it went. It'll come to this screen, saying how many did you do, and then they can click I skipped this exercise. So if they click I skipped this exercise, it'll then give them this list of options, so they can pick, I didn't like it, it was painful, you didn't have enough time, whatever the reason that they didn't do it is, they can select that. And then after, it gives them kind of this achievement page, or this activity page. Good job, way to do those exercises. And then in the activity tab, or the achievement tab, it kind of gives them an update. So you did 13 exercises. You had, your current streak was the first day you did it, all-time streak, 1 day. So it's that kind of gamification aspect of it that, when they're done, it's satisfying to them to be able to see, man, I've done this 3 days in a row. I did all my exercises, and it's kind of that confidence boost to actually see it. It's kind of that same satisfaction that we get when we cross something off a list. It's just a rewarding feeling in and of itself to track that activity. So again, research has shown that those sorts of things increase patient compliance. So if we can get through the barrier of the patient downloading the app and beginning to use it, I think it's going to become much easier for them to do it. It's just that initial barrier that we have to break through for the right patient. Certainly not all patients will use the app or the desktop version, and that's okay. We don't need to fight an uphill battle there. But for the patients that it is appropriate, I think it can be a really great resource. So on the MedBridge Go app, the patient can also click this resources tab here in the middle, and that'll show them their exercises, and then also show them at the bottom under the more resources tab, it'll show them their education as well. So moving on to the browser format that the patient will see if they use their desktop, and they can do this on the phone as well, but the view isn't quite as clean. So what I would encourage is, if they're using their phone, to use the MedBridge Go app, and if they're using a computer or an iPad, they can then use the either the app or the browser version. But the browser version on the phone is a little bit clunky, so just a heads up there. So looking here, the patient will click on the link, which will then take them to this page here on the left, with their access code. So they'll verify their access code, and it'll take them to their resources here. So this is where they can see their exercises, their education. There's an education tab, and then there's a program notes tab. So you can add extra notes here. I haven't added any here, obviously, but if you wanted to, you could add extra notes there for the patient. They can then also have the same opportunity as they did in the app to log their activity. So click the exercises they wanted to do, and it's kind of the same thing, except there isn't really the progress tracking, there isn't the notifications, there aren't the reminders that are associated with the app. So while the look is cleaner and you still get the the digital videos and everything like that all in one place, the education, the exercises, you don't get the gamification aspect of it that can really help patients. So I think if patients, if they can learn the technology, I would say the app is the number one choice. If they're not using the app, then the browser is the next best choice. And if they're not going to use either one of those, then they can use just the paper version. Okay, so that's kind of going through everything to do with assigning patient education and assigning exercises for your patients. So another feature here on MedBridge for you is the continuing education. So if you click on the education and training tab and you click here on the continuing education piece, you can go to North Carolina and then you can click your discipline. So speech language appears to have 542 courses that you can go through and click here. If we go to occupational therapy, there's 966 courses, and I think physical therapy has the most, and they have 1,126 courses. So there's quite a bit of continuing education content here on MedBridge that is a great resource for you. You can also go to do live webinars, and all of these can count for your continuing education requirements. And it tells you how many hours it counts for on the video. And you can do them at your pace. There is an app that goes along. It's different than the patient app, but there's an app you can get as the clinician, so you can watch the videos on your phone and things like that. So if you're at kids swim practice or whatever, and you're bored out of your mind, maybe you can do some continuing education on your phone. So there's live webinars here you can click on if you're interested. Again, the credits for continuing education are, it'll tell you here with a check mark that it's eligible or not eligible here. And then lastly, there's certification prep. So if you're interested in becoming, let's say NCS prepped and you want to be a specialist there, they have that prep program to get you prepared to take those tests and to be able to do that. So to my knowledge, all of those things are included in your MedBridge subscription. So that's a lot of free resources for you guys to grow your knowledge, so you can help your patients, but also grow and develop your career as well. So I hope that this has been really helpful for you guys. I know it may kind of seem like a lot initially, but it is pretty clean and intuitive and easy once you play around with it. So I just wanted to provide kind of a starting point for you guys. I definitely encourage you to make it your own, and if you find a different way that works better for you using MedBridge, then do it. But I do think that there are some key points and best practices that you guys can use. So I just want to review those really quick here at the end. So use those defaults on the parameters. Again, you just go to settings, and you've got that there. So that's one of the best practices. I think using templates is going to be really easy and be a best practice to save you guys time. So again, you can go to templates here on the right and then go to my practices templates. You can also go to manage templates here at the top. And this is where you can actually see, so if I go to Moses Cone Acute Rehab, I can actually see all of the templates that have been made. And so now that I have a template, even though I basically copied somebody else's, there's this sharing piece, so I can click share, and now everybody else can see that template. So it's an easy way to collaborate with your colleagues regarding patient exercise prescription, and it's going to really help you to save time, so that if somebody has built a great program, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You've got it right there in the program. So adding program notes, that's another thing that I think can be helpful, to add the customization piece for the patient and add value to them for their specific condition or situation. And then one of the last things that I want to make sure we talk about is reviewing those access codes, because that's huge for making sure that the continuity of care is there between therapists when one patient is being treated by multiple therapists. So again, copying and pasting that access code initially into Epic. Again, a logical place in my mind, it would be right below that impression statement. But if you guys can think of a better place to put it, that's totally fine. But having somewhere that's consistent so that other therapists know where to look could be really helpful. So the new therapist would click this jump to program button, copy and paste that access code here, and then they'll be able to see that program. Now, one other thing I did mention earlier that I would address would be how you can check pretty easily how many times the patient has logged in, and then also when their last login was. So you can, when you go to this access codes tab, there's this column that says patient logins, and then a column that says last patient login. And so right here, you're able to kind of check patients' accuracy. So if you say, hey, have you been doing your exercise program? And maybe you showed them how to use the app, or you showed them how to log in, and they say, oh yeah, I've been doing that. You can go and check and see, to make sure that they're actually doing it. Because if they're not, if they say that they are, but there's nothing logged in here, you're going to be able to say, hey, I checked to see, and there's nothing there. That can actually help improve their adherence in the future, because they're going to know that you can actually see whether they logged in or not. And then lastly, here from this page, you can actually edit. So if you want to delete a program, one's no longer applicable and your page is just getting real clunky and bulky, you can delete the program, or you can edit it from here. So if you want to jump to the program, click edit. It takes you right back to this page that you're familiar with from earlier. So I hope that this has been a helpful resource for you guys to look through MedBridge and to kind of get an orientation and a tutorial to it. I think it is a really good program for you guys on multiple levels, from the exercise prescription, patient education, the continuing education for clinicians. I think all of that together can be really helpful. And again, research supports that. Something like this, these connected health interventions, basically providing healthcare content digitally, is something that is it's in its infancy, and it's going to continue to be explored. But early research is showing that it can help with increasing patient compliance to exercise, especially for the right patient, with this sort of type of delivery. So thank you guys so much for having me over these past 8 weeks. It's been a great experience, and I hope this has been a helpful resource for you.